District Board meeting is called to order. And our first item of business is to approve both the November 18 minutes and then the January 6th minutes. Can I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of November, what the date you said, November 16th?
November 18th?
18th, yes.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And January 6th? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have two items on the agenda, and the first is Kimberly Rezenka, and the applicant is requesting a change of zoning classification from RU 111 single-family residential with a binding development plan, BU 1 general retail commercial, and TR 2 single-family mobile home to all TR 1 single-family residential with removal of the existence binding development plan and the creation of a new binding development plan for the purpose of creating a 150-unit manufactured home subdivision. Okay. So is our applicant here? Rezenka, I'm terribly sorry. Terrace. Rezenka, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the Port St. John Dependent Special District Board. My name is Kim Rezenka. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Lyons, Lacey, and Rezenka in the Rockledge office. I have never been before you before, so this is somewhat of a privilege. I've done the Merritt Island Special District Board, but never the Port St. John. And so, therefore, you've never seen me either. I like documents, and I like to tell a story. So what I'm here today representing is two property owners and also Home in Project Administration, Inc., who is the developer that wants to come in to put in this manufactured home development. Nick DeTore is here. He is the representative, and he will also speak to give you a little bit more of a flavor of the types of homes that are going in, because this is what he does. This is his profession. So this is basically an infill project. It's been vacant for a long time, and the developer wishes to put in a manufactured home development on 58 acres. The concept plan that's in your packet shows 147 lots, and we actually think it'll be a little less than that, but because we're still not sure, we're not in final design, we have a concept plan, we've done the binding development plan and reduced it to 150 units, which we hoped would make the residents feel a little better as well. We are requesting the TR1 from the RU111, the BU1, and the TR2. We're removing an old BDP on the 51 acres and a new BDP over the entire 58 acres. TR1 has lots of 7,500 square feet and dimensions of a minimum of 65 by 100. The existing RU111 also has 75,000 square feet, but lot size of minimum of 75 by 75. The old RU111 has density at about 3 units to the acre. What we're asking for is density of 2.6 units to the acre, so it's a less intense development than what's been approved in 2006 with the binding development plan. The development to the north, which is what you guys have seen the letters off of Vineland, is part of a very large development in Port St. John that surrounds Fay Boulevard. That density to the north is at 3.4 units to the acre. And the development to the east is another TR1 project, and its density is 3.7 units to the acre. So this is the least dense in the area that's being proposed before you. The new BDP limits the units, buffers the south. Also, too, as I'm sure you know, with the site plan and subdivision code, there has to be a buffer of 15 feet undisturbed all around the perimeter. So even though it has a 20-foot setback from the property line, each lot in this development, there's still going to be an extra 15-foot subdivision buffer left in its natural state. So it is going to be larger than what you've seen in some of the comments that have been sent to you. There was a public meeting on January 19th of 2021 at the Port St. John Community Center, where we advertised the public meeting to all of the same people that were advertised for this meeting within the 500 feet. And there were 36 people who attended. It was an informational meeting. People asked questions. There was some discussion about the environment. People are concerned about changing the environment, changing the natural scenery that's been behind their house forever and ever. But basically, it was a good meeting, and people did attend, and it lasted about an hour. The map that is in your package shows the surrounding area, and I'm sure you're familiar with this. It's behind Winn-Dixie. That's the 7-acre of BU1 that will be adding to the manufactured home subdivision. It's to the west of Clearview Terrace Mobile Home Park. It is got a little piece of land that goes over the FP&L easement, and that would be the access road between the two parcels. Then also to the east is the FPL, and then to the south is the Cedar Lake Mobile Homes, and then further to the east is the Brevard Memorial Park. The entrance to this project will be Clearview Drive and Cedar Lake Drive. The history of this parcel, of the 51-acre parcel, is that it was rezoned first in 1990. It was rezoned from GU and TR1, so this project did have part of the zoning before, to RU 111 with the BDP. It was approved for 154 lots on the 51 acres. As I've mentioned, we're now at 58 acres with 150 max lots. In 2006, there was a new BDP that took out specifics as to inches of rainfall, percentage of impervious cover, and emergency access width. It added no access on Vineland, which is why that's in this BDP before you, although I can't imagine how this would ever access off of Vineland. The new BDP has been modified just to limit the number of units, and also because we don't have all the same requirements from the 2006, because a lot of those 2006 requirements were code requirements, and there's no need to put a code requirement into a BDP. The BDP does change the access limit because the old BDP limited to just Clearview. However, and if that's what you prefer, that's fine, but really it doesn't seem fair to those in Clearview Terrace Mobile Home Park that all of the homes have to access off there. As to road requirements to Clearview Drive, whatever the county requires, that will be part of the site plan. So trying to say what the grade's going to be and how big it is and sidewalks and things like that, that's all going to be done during the site plan process. And it does not need to be in a BDP. Per your staff report, there are no concurrency issues. There's no road concurrency or school concurrency. City water is proposed for this development, and the developer intends to bring Cocoa Sewer from Camp Road through another development. The other development is Watermark. Environmental issues, which you've heard a number of times in the emails from residents. Tortoises do exist. The survey is not completed, but tortoises can be moved, and that's what the developer would do according with the Fish and Wildlife regulations. As to scrub jays, we have had a preliminary scrub jay and found no scrub jays themselves, but the surveys can only be only be done during certain times of the year, and there is one planned in the next 2 weeks, which is in March, to find out what the scrub jay population really is, if it does still exist. 10 or 15 years ago, there were definitely found scrub jays, and there was a take plan issued from Fish and Wildlife at a cost of $225,000 to mitigate for the scrub jays. So it is possible to mitigate for scrub jays. Wetlands are nominal at 1.56 acres, and this developer will meet all county and agency requirements regarding any and all wildlife that exists. Sewer and septic both are planned to be brought to the project. Currently, county capacity for sewer is limited, so if the developer cannot bring sewer, some of the lots will have to be quarter-acre lots with the upgraded septic requirements. It's intended to tie into the new Watermark PUD, which is about a half a mile to the south. A recent rezoning in 2018 was the Watermark PUD to the south. Those lot sizes are 40-foot width and only 4,800 square feet. I don't know if this came before you. I assume it did back in 2018. It is 129 acres with 417 lots. In December of 2020, that was revised to 363 lots. That's the only recent rezoning in the area for quite a while. The issue of compatibility has been raised. We believe that this is compatible with the area. These are our manufactured homes, which are similar to what is at Clearview Terrace and at Cedar Lake Mobile Home Park. It's also compatible with the lot sizes of Watermark. It's not inconsistent with your new small area study. And it will increase the manufactured home zoning and availability, which is less than 1% of the total area in this acre. There's not a lot of manufactured home developments in your area as shown by the small area study. As to the handout I've given to you, just for your reference, page 1 is one of the owners of the property. They own 50 acres. They also own that little half-acre parcel in the Cedar Lake Mobile Home Park, which is intended to be an access, and that's page 2, 0.5 acre. And then page 3 is the other owner, that's the 6.89 acres that's behind Winn-Dixie that's added to this development, which is new. Page 4 is the 1990 Rezoning Resolution that shows this was rezoned quite a while ago, and it hasn't been developed, and it hasn't been developed because it hasn't been feasible to develop. And now this developer believes it is feasible and is going to upgrade the area by sewer and septic. Page 5 is the 2006 Rezoning Resolution. Page 6 is the Certificate of Title. I also put this in here to explain that in 2006, the developer that rezoned this went into foreclosure on all 58 acres. And the legal descriptions attached are inclusive of this property. There's been several emails from a Zachary Brigante who lives at 1101 Vineland Street. I don't know if he's here tonight or not, but he has sent public comment claiming that the property issue could not be developed. This can be developed. It's been entitled since 1991, so I just wanted to put that in the record. He's also stated that this acreage is cheap. It's not cheap to buy, and I'm not sure exactly why he's stating that. It's speculative and without proof. On page 9, I've put information in here about appraisals because you've heard in many of these emails that people are concerned about property devaluation. And appraisers look at similar type of homes. So no one in Vineland is going to have their property appraised based upon a manufactured home sale in Clearview Terrace Mobile Home or in Cedar Lake Mobile Home or in this development because they're different types of homes. In this document, what you should know about home appraisals is very clear that a property appraisal is influenced by sales of similar properties and current market trends. On page 10 of the handout are the HUD standards for manufactured homes. Manufactured homes and mobile homes are really the same thing, as I'll show you later in this packet. However, the standards increase substantially due to winds and other criteria of building codes. So this is a list of the manufactured housing federal statutes, and Mr. DeTore, the developer's representative, will explain some of that to you. Page 11, this is part of the federal standards to ensure uniform and effective enforcement of construction and safety standards to ensure that the public interest is duly considered in determination of the federal standards and their enforcement. Page 12 is the definition of manufactured homes according to the federal law, which is also very similar to page 13, the Florida statute definition of manufactured homes. I've also cited on page 13 the definitions from the Brevard County Code for mobile home, modular coach, and modular factory-built homes. And again, manufactured homes, definition of this in the county code cites to chapter 320 of the Florida statutes, which I've then also put the definitions for you as well. As to page 14, this is the plat of the Clearview Terrace mobile home park. This was intended to have 55 units, and this is the project that's to the east, that's been existing for a while. And not all of them are developed, although most of them are. Some do have 2 lots for 1 home. There's been a concern that people don't want rental homes in this area. Only 19 of these 55 lots in Clearview Terrace have homestead exemptions, leading me to believe that the rest of them are rental if they're not vacant. So there is already a lot of rental, and just to say that they don't want more is without justification. In summary, what we're requesting is less units than could be built there now with the binding development plan of 154. We're also adding 7 acres. The lot size are the same. And I actually forgot to show you on page 15, the TR1 zoning criteria shows that the rear setback has to be 20 feet, unlike someone said 7.5 in one of their emails, and the size of the lots are 7,500. Page 16 is the existing zoning of RU 111 with the minimum lot size of 7,500 square feet and the 20-foot setbacks, same as what's being requested. And then the zoning to the north, the homes off Vineland, are RU 19. These actually have a lesser minimum lot size of 6,600 square feet, although most of them are larger than that, and setbacks are the same as well. So therefore, the lot sizes are the same as before. They're the same as to the east, the north, and the west. The developer is bringing city sewer and water to the site. They will follow all county, state, and federal regulations regarding wildlife. Pursuant to the small area study that you're going to be discussing next, TR1 is vastly underdeveloped in Port St. John. It's only 2.7% of the total acreage of Port St. John of your small area study. RU 111, you have 4.39% total acreage with 100 acres vacant. As to the complaints and the concern of the emails, they are speculative as to property value. Your code is very specific. You have to have a MAI appraiser to actually state that this is going to devalue the property. And simply, I believe people are concerned about the unknown. They like their backyard, they like the park, they like seeing the birds and the wildlife. But the developer has the right to develop as has been granted previously. We would request the right to question those that testified today if I need to for the record. I'd request rebuttal time after testimony. And at this point, I would request approval of the rezoning to TR1 with the BDP as presented, limiting it to 150 units.
Thank you. Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the board?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for all the information. My one question is you list the, you quoted, some may have to have septic. This property is less than a mile from the Indian River Lagoon. And so I'm curious as to, I know you said there's going to be a possible connection through Camp Road sewer. what do you mean by some may have to have septic?
Currently, the capacity of the septic plant, or the sewer plant in this area is only 70. So we can only get, at this point, sewer for 70. If we can't connect through Camp Road, then the remaining lots would have to be 1/4 acre by county code. And then they would have to have the high reduction nutrient septic tanks pursuant to the code as well.
Roughly about 80 new septic tanks?
Yeah, if,
I know we're working to remove septic tanks, and so to put 80 new septic tanks within a mile of the river on the, that type of soil, even though they're high-efficiency septic tanks, it's still new septic tanks that down the road, they may have to look at paying the cost of removing.
the developer has every intention of bringing sewer up from Camp Road through the Watermark subdivision. We're working with the same engineer that's doing the Watermark subdivision. But again, that truly is a site plan issue. We're going to do what we have to do to meet the county code. And you can't really prevent people from developing because the code allows them to do it with septic tanks. He does not want to use septic tanks, truly he does not. And we would use all septic from the county, or all sewer from the county, they just don't have it available, nor do they have any plans to upgrade that plant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Would these be advanced septic systems?
They would have to be, ma'am, yes. They would be the 60% nutrient reduction, that's what it is, yeah. As per se, the code requires that.
Right, just checking. Has the Fish and Wildlife been and evaluated the property? Have they been? Fish and Wildlife, I know there are gopher tortoises there, scrub jays and eagles. Has Fish and Wildlife been to the property?
They were on the property 15 years ago, and
Oh,
they
no, that's
issued a
right.
take permit for scrub jays. But they, until we have an environmental study, they won't come on anyway. And we can't do anything with development until all agencies approve it. So no, they have not been on the property recently. They won't come until there's more information.
Okay, the wetlands on the property. Since DEP have taken over from EPA, will this make any difference to the wetlands on the property?
No, because we still have to abide by county code, we can only impact 0.08%. And there's only 1.56 acres of wetlands on this entire 58
There's how
parcel.
much?
1.56 acres, yeah, of wetlands, and 55.4 acres of uplands.
The binding development plan, you say that you're cutting down the mobile homes from what we had, what had been indicated. I thought there was two, I'm sorry, I can't breathe in
I know,
this.
it's hard to speak with masks, it's very hard.
There was 200, and then it was dropped to 150.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and there's a binding development plan on that?
There is a binding development plan currently for 154 units. This is
Okay.
up from 2006, on 51 acres. We are now proposing 150 units on 58 acres.
But there's nothing to stop you at all from bringing that back and cancelling out the BDP, right?
The land won't support more than 147 units. That's the concept plan before you. And that's what the BDP does, is to
Do you mean
limit.
this one? The one you...
No, it's in the packet that it's,
Yeah.
I have extra copies.
Oh, yes, yeah, I know. Yeah.
So the land, because of stormwater retention, compensatory storage, there's no way to get more than 147. That's the max they think they can get. There may be availability to get a couple more. That's why we went from 200 to 150, because there's no way they can get more than 150.
And you don't really believe that even with, that this will devalue the property owners around it?
No,
No.
it's new development, and there's no evidence before you that it will. It's all speculative.
Okay.
Because appraisers will look at regular construction versus manufactured homes when they do their appraisals. It will actually increase the mobile homes, manufactured homes to the east and to the south. It will not have any impact on those homes to the north.
I have a question for our county people, Jennifer. This is mostly hardwood, wooded area. What is the timeline as far as when things happen? When can we request that an environmental study be done on this property? Must it be after they have approval or disapproval here, or can we request that they come in with an environmental study for this property?
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Jeffrey Baum, the Planning and Zoning Manager for Brevard County. The environmental aspects of the questions that you have will all be addressed during the site plan process, or in this case, the subdivision plan.
Is that contingent upon approval or disapproval, or?
Well, this is just the first stage of the development process to get the zoning approved. Once that happens, then the developer will petition county staff for a subdivision plan. That's your engineering plans to establish the lots, and then all the infrastructure to support that, including engineering, stormwater, and all the environmental permitting that would be required to develop this property.
So we are not within our scope to ask for some environmental report on this property before we vote to approve or disapprove?
You can ask for whatever you want, but when we're looking at zoning, we look for two things. We look for consistency with the comp plan and compatibility with the surrounding area. That is the purview of the zoning before you.
The existing zoning dates back to 1991. Environmental issues may have certainly changed in 20 years.
That is correct.
Okay.
Things do change, as the Mr. Rezenka has stated, that there is no updated environmental reports to provide to you all.
Was there not? I seem to remember an evacuation from around this property. Something to do with the unsafe FPL lines. What was that? No?
I don't have any
Perhaps
idea.
some of the.
I have a question for you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. In our packet, under environmental constraints, it says the subject parcel contains mapped hydric soils with potential for wetlands. Now, you gave us a quote of 1.56 can be classified wetlands. When was that figure determined, the 1.56? How recently? Or is that going back to the 1991?
No, that was done in 2002. It was December of 2002, or 2020.
2020?
Yeah, it was just last year.
And does the same, under portions of the subject property may contain map type 2 aquifer recharge soils that are found within aquifer recharge areas. Has that been, that's a may contain, has that been determined yet?
It has been. Our environmentalist says that's not. Just because there's soils doesn't mean there's wetlands. It means there's the potential for wetlands. And that was done by the Natural Resource Department. I can't imagine what they were thinking in their head when they write these things. I just don't know, and I don't think anyone's here to answer those questions. Because they look at maps that have been around for a long time that haven't been updated as well.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask staff, why is this going through the county planning and zoning before the commission?
It'll be heard on Monday to the Planning and Zoning Board. Initially, when the application was provided to us, there was a BDP for 200 units, which would be an increase in the allowable density. And according to our code, it's recorded to go to LPA. Since it was determined that since it was advertised that way, that it would still go to the LPA as well. And that's why it's going.
Because when we started this board, I know because we took it in the Homeowners Association, it was because we were in Port St. John, we knew the people, we knew the problems of Port St. John.
Of course.
And now it seems like it's going to the county P&Z, which we were trying to avoid.
Understand? So the P&Z board does not circumvent your all advisory responsibilities. It's just an added layer to what you guys are doing tonight.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, I'd like to open this up for public comment. When you come forward, if you would please state your name and address clearly.
Mr. DeTore would like to speak, if that's okay, as part of the applicant.
Okay. Mr. DeTore?
Madam Chair, members, thank you for giving me a few moments to address some of these issues. I'm going to digress from what I was going to speak about because I heard a couple of concerns here this evening and I'd like to touch on them. One, Kevin, on the matter of septic systems. Just this afternoon, I spoke with the engineer that we've engaged on this project about an alternative to connecting into the COCO system. 7,780 feet is what my septic system will have to be. I shouldn't say septic, sewer system, if in fact we can't tie into Watermark. So we do have an alternative. I have no intent of utilizing septic systems, okay? And that was this afternoon, and I had that discussion with engineering. On the issues of environmental, I want to make you aware that I did engage Atlantic Environmental a few weeks ago, and he generated a report that's dated February 18th of 2021. So it is recent. What I asked him to do is give me a sample of what is out on that property. So what they'll typically do is they will look at 15% of a property and issue a report. And based upon his findings, he's indicating I have 43 gopher tortoises currently that we would have to relocate.
On 15% of the property?
Well, based on that 15% over the overall property, he ran an extrapolation and said for that entire project, we're looking at about 43 tortoises.
Okay. Guys, it's not your turn yet. Okay, continue, sir.
The scrub jay matter, obviously, we couldn't do a scrub jay survey until March. That's Fish and Wildlife regulations. But we did go out there and do a sampling of playing the music and all the other requirements of the environmentalists. He found no indication of scrub jays. Now, today I approved him to do a formal survey, okay, of scrub jays, and that's going to be completed this month. So we are going over and above what would normally be done in the course or in this process to try to get the information you want and that we need in order to do this, make this a viable project for everybody. Any questions?
I do have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
How much of all this hardwood area is going to be cleared?
Oh, interesting subject. Along with the due diligence here, I hired a lady, well-known in the area, Susan Hall. And Susan went out and did an evaluation, which included drone overflight, and issued a report to me on the scrub oak matter. And essentially, she's working with engineering to help preserve as much as we can. And what I don't preserve, I have to replant. And I will give you the sum of $225,000 is approximately what the cost will be for me to replant based on her report. So I have Susan Hall on board to help me with the vegetation, protected species. I have Atlantic Environmental working as far as gopher tortoises, scrub jays, and other protected species. That's all active right now.
Are there heritage trees on the property?
She did not indicate, but that doesn't mean that there aren't, because she's going to have to be now fully engaged on this if, in fact, we have the blessing to go forward.
Any questions?
No.
Any further
Let's hear
questions?
from the people.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Okay, time for public comments, and if you come forward to speak, please state your name and address clearly. Come on up.
How you doing? Am I close enough? All right, my name is Zach Briganti. I am here. And I just wanted to say my house backs up to Vineland, so my backyard is on Vineland Street.
So what is your address, sir?
1101 Vineland Street. It was mentioned earlier. Out of the hundreds of emails that were sent, 2 words out of mine were chosen to, which I feel honored about. But anyways, many of you might know me. I've been in Port St. John my pretty much entire life. So a couple of the things I wanted to just touch on. So as far as the endangered species and all that stuff goes, the Florida Fish and Wildlife do have pictures of scrub jays, gopher turtles, all that. We have been kind of guided to not necessarily eliminate this project, but just ask for a compromise. My home was just, I don't want to jump all over the place to property value to, endangered species, but we just had an appraisal in January. While it wasn't done by an MIA, he did say if there were single wide family homes, it would have mentally impacted his decision. And if it didn't, what it would have done is my home may have been the same value, but it might not have been the home chosen to be purchased, right? So you might not be interested in my house at that price because of the manufactured home. I have a 5,000 square foot house, and they're talking about putting a 15-foot buffer off my porch, which is 12 foot from the property line, a row of these homes. So, that was just a concern of mine. If we, Florida Fish and Wildlife asks, indirectly, to do on-site relocation instead of off-site, and it's 750 square feet per gopher turtle. And it's at less cost. You don't have to, pay for the lifelong, track of where this turtle ends up. But if we could ask for that buffer, just either along that backside of Vineland Street where there's those 29 or 27 lots, that would eliminate a lot of concern. It would eliminate the view and give the buffer to the wildlife. It would allow Vineland to not have these mobile homes right stacked on the backyard, and also have less traffic coming in, less septic tanks or less sewers, or less whatever, that all ends up happening. But ultimately, it allows the development, less traffic on, because that's what the Cedar Lake people are going to come up and talk about, the traffic on their road. So it kind of eliminates many of the concerns, right? if a buffer on the north stretch, and I don't want to sound, selfish, because that's my stretch, right? But ultimately, and as far as, the comment about the land being cheap, it was purchased as an undesirable piece of property to develop. That's why it's been the way it is right now. It's got FP&L running through the middle of it, where people will have radiation issues. There's a lot of concerns with that. I'm no expert there, but railroad tracks on one side, Winn-Dixie on the other. So it was purchased at a, lower price, which I can't blame them. I buy real estate low too if I can. Now with the intention to try to change it into something that it wasn't to benefit the developer, which we all have our own businesses, and that's his, which is fine. But that's all I wanted to say. I appreciate, you guys, and hopefully the emails have resonated, and I don't know how many people are here now, but just remember we had to move it to here and change it twice because there were too many people, and I think that should speak volumes on the decision tonight. So thank you all.
Thank you. We'll get through all the public comment first, and then you're welcome to come back up.
So you're not allowing me to cross-examine it?
This isn't a court.
Yes, it's a
We're- Excuse me,
quasi-judicial.
what we're going to do is get through all the public comment first, and then I'll ask you to come back up. You're taking notes, it shouldn't be a problem. Yes, sir.
As the applicant's representative, she's allowed to cross-examine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's quasi-judicial.
Cross what?
Quasi-judicial.
Well, I didn't know that, I'm sorry. So I'm breaking the rules by saying that? So yes, ma'am, come up and ask questions, I apologize.
Mr. Brigante, is that your property?
Yes, it is.
And that's in the red, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
And is that your shed or other items that are to the south of that?
That's correct. When I purchased my house, the lot was cleared farther than the survey. Correct.
Okay, so you purchased.
4 years ago,
in-
2016.
Correct. And so you've continued to use the property that's not yours, that belongs to the applicant, correct?
That is correct. My kids do play football on that little piece of grass that's right off our back deck.
And the owner's representative, Justin Savage, has asked you to stop using that, hasn't he?
I spoke to Justin 2 years ago when he was driving his Jeep through the backyard, and it was not mentioned.
Okay. So I'm showing you a email from February 10th of 2022 from Justin Savage to you. Did you receive that?
I did not. This is a work email, and IT would not allow this to come through.
No, you can keep that, so
Okay?
now you know. County?
Rita Pritchett may have, I'm trying to remember if they've been copied on any emails. I don't know that.
And you said that this land was purchased at a low price. By whom was it purchased at a low price?
So I've been talking to the owner of this land for about 2 years now, and, my understanding when I talked to Justin, it was he was offering to sell me so that we never had to develop it, and then he had a survey come through in 2018, and I want to say he was saying $50,000 was the purchase price on, it's a weird plot, so I don't know if that was the entire amount or how it was split up, but it was definitely in the low thousands per acre.
And you know that he purchased it out of foreclosure from a bank, correct?
We didn't get into that.
And do you know what Home and Project Administration is purchasing this property for?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Brigante, that's it.
Anyone else want to come up and speak? Obviously not.
Good evening. My name is Cecile Denning. I live at 1173 Vineland Street. I have a lot of concerns, but since listening to you tonight, a couple more popped up. I would like to know, since they're putting manufactured homes, and they have to be put on a pad, you know, the concrete pads, the additional roads, and whatever concrete's going to be put on the area. Now, if you don't, I would like to know what the ratio is from all this concrete to what's there now. I'm not sure about the geography of it too much, but it slopes up from our house. So that means it's got to slope down somewhere up there. And is it going to slope towards the river? Is it going to slope down and make a river into the other neighborhoods? Because somebody did have a problem 2 houses up from me. Somebody did something, and their whole backyard was flooded. And that was just one small incident. Now, this is a relatively large project. And if you're going to all of a sudden go from dirt, Florida drainage, to concrete, what's the ratio? 10%? 50%? 0%? There's no way for me to judge that. But if you're going to all of a sudden take aquifer, things that will go towards the aquifer, to sailing down into the river, what do you want me to say? And that's just one of my concerns. That whole back is a wildlife refuge, really, unofficial, but I left my phone there, but I've got pictures of tortoises. I've seen the birds. I mean, that is, I don't know where they're going to go. Possums, raccoons, you know, they've got to go someplace. So you might be able to relocate some. As a matter of fact, and I don't know if this is true, but I was told at some point that you are not supposed to relocate the gopher tortoises because they can carry diseases to the other places that they go to. I might be wrong on this. This is what I heard. So I mean, and this is just off the top of my head. I haven't really studied it. I'm sitting here listening to everybody talk. It's wonderful to develop, and I don't really have a problem with that per se. However, it's a slowly moving ball that's going to rapidly go. By the time it gets to the bottom, it steamrolls over everything. So, for what it's worth, that's my opinion. I'm not saying don't do it, but it's just not. It's only thought out to a certain direction. It's a certain mindset of development. It's not a overall development. Like how is this going to affect? They know how it's going to affect them, but how is it going to affect us? And we're not going to know that until it's too late. Okay. You want to ask me anything?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you. Come forward, sir. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Vincent Price. I live at 798 Alcazar Avenue, which is the corner lot of Vineland and Alcazar. I've been there 35 years. And my question is, for a developer, what was the reason for going from TR, was it 1 to 2? 2 to 1, when you did that planning? What was the reason, thinking behind that?
I don't understand the question. TR2 to TR1?
Right.
Yes.
It's a narrower lot.
Correct. That's why.
To get more houses in? That was
What's the reason?
It's a narrower lot.
Right. But it was changed from 2, which is the wider lot, to the narrow one?
Mr. Chairman, if I can interject for a second, his question should be directed toward the board, not the.
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
yes, that's true.
right.
Please speak
All
into
right.
the mic.
My question is why that was changed to the narrower lots. Obviously, you get more units in there. That was my only question of, was that the reason for doing that?
Write it down. We'll get to, I'll call her back up. Anyone else wish to come forward?
Hello, board members. My name is Julie Lynn Ulrich. I live at 5965 Cedar Lake Drive. There's a couple of concerns I have here, and I guess I address you, not them. Cedar Lake Drive is not a park. It's individually owned homes, half acre. It's a dead-end street, very quiet. I would like to keep the same binding development plan that exists right now. We are an emergency exit only, block homes. Now, you may think a mobile home value will go down or whatever. Ours hasn't. They've gone up. Everyone is remodeling everything there. The other thing, my main concern, which I know it's not going to fly, are the animals. There's burrowing owls. There's a panther. There's a video of a panther. There's an eagle. There's indigo snakes. There are tortoises, and it's not 45 on 15. I have 15 that come into my yard all the time. They go across the street. There's 10 over there. They go back in the woods, the land. There's scrub jay. They eat out of my hand. So don't tell me they're not there. And the woods, the natural habitat. I understand it's land and they have a right to develop it. Now, my other concern is in their meeting, they were putting mobile homes in. The people that rent these homes, they are not permitted to buy them. They won't sell them for 5 years. So you're going to have renters in there for 5 years. Now, I know rental. I know how they work. They'll take the kitchen sink and run. That's it. That's my concern. The traffic on Cedar Lake cannot handle, and we're saying, we'll just say 40 homes at the south side in that little narrow way that goes up to the north after a 6-lane highway of FPL lines. I'm saying two vehicles per house. That's 80 vehicles coming out at Cedar Lake Drive. We can't handle that. And then they go down Broadway. We have a day school down there. We have mining coming out across the railroad tracks. There's a gas line that goes down the center of FPL, which they nicked or whatever, and we had to evacuate. I just don't think it's feasible for what they want. And I can't say, okay, you can't build at your property, but let's stick to the same one that we had. Block homes. I know when they changed the plan in 2006-07, they didn't want mobile homes there because of the hurricanes. Let's go back to the block homes, keep it that way. If people want to build there, that's fine. And give us our buffer. Keep Cedar Lake, please keep Cedar Lake quiet. Let us have the emergency exit only for county. It was for county emergencies. And I know I can't do too much about the animals, but I've had 2 calls into Tallahassee, Florida Fish and Wildlife, and US, and they're watching. That's all I can say is they're watching. So no one can touch that property. I have 2 biologists on it. So let me see if I went over everything that I wanted. And I don't know if Clearview is a mobile home park, but we're not. We are not a mobile home park. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Matt, 1173 Vineland. And as far as the tortoises, you're not supposed to move them because they do get a respiratory infection if they get moved, okay? Second, you're talking about the Atlantic Ridge. That's where you're talking about building on, the Atlantic Ridge. That has some serious aquifer concerns. So you might want to get a geological study on that. Okay? You're talking about redistributing the land and the water flow. We have no idea which way the water flow is going to go. Could go to the river, could go to the railroad tracks, could go north, could go south. We have no clue. And they don't have a clue either. But it's definitely going to affect a lot of people, one way or another, in everything that I just said. And if anybody has any questions for me, let me have them now.
Any questions? No. Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Hello, Sue Price, 798 Alcazar Avenue, Port St. John. So my house sits on the corner of Vineland and Alcazar. My question is, if it was zoned just for the RU1, what kind of buffer would that provide if it was not a TR2 or TR1?
I think we need someone from the county to answer that question.
Well, you mean as if the zoning was the RU1 11 to stay there? The RU1 11 zoning has a 20-foot rear setback for the primary building. Accessory buildings would have a 7.5-foot minimum rear yard setback. Now, the proposed development for the subdivision code would have the buffer that would abut the perimeter of their development. And then we get into whatever zoning classification they go forward with. If it stays under the current RU111 zoning, it's a 20-foot setback for a house. It's a 7.5-foot setback for a shed. You have a 10-foot rear setback for a screened porch. You would have a 5-foot setback for a pool or a pool screen enclosure.
Well, I was wondering about the buffer because Ms. Rozanka mentioned a 15-foot buffer. Would that be different for the RU111?
The buffer's a landscaping code provision, so it's not a zoning
Okay.
setback.
So it's optional?
I don't think it's optional. It's required by the other department during the review of the subdivision plan.
Okay, so the 15, I'm just to understand, the 15-foot buffer is regardless of whether it's TR2 or TR1 or RU1. Is that correct? That was my question, if the buffer varies depending on the zoning.
The buffer doesn't vary, is not part of the zoning. It's part of the subdivision review process on whatever the property's being developed.
Okay, so then the 15-foot buffer is what they're suggesting they want to do. There's nothing holding them to that, one way or the other, regardless of the zoning.
The zoning doesn't require a buffer.
Okay, thank you.
What does the current binding development plan require?
The current binding development plan requires a buffer along the south property line. So, and then
Only the
there's a
south
setback.
property line? Only?
That's the only condition in the BDP that's currently in effect that is identified as along the south property line. And it's 15 feet set inside that south property line.
Okay. Anyone else? Come forward, sir.
I'm Thomas Amistad, 5941 Cedar Lake Drive. I've been there since 1982. I was at various other meetings. If I remember rightly, the property in question, not counting the addition behind Winn-Dixie, was zoned to TR2. I don't know what all those other zones were. And it was a compromise because they didn't want TR2 because they wanted TR1. The RU111 was a compromise between the county commission and the citizens to allow greater density, but also to eliminate the possibility of being a mobile home park. TR1 would allow it to be a mobile home park. They did not want that due to hurricane concerns. The designation of 5971 with binding development plan as emergency access only, with the property on either side of the road being given to the property owners adjacent to that property. That would put all of the traffic out through Clearview. Actually, as far as the people that would live there are concerned, I gotta take this off, I can't breathe. As far as the people that live there are concerned, not Clearview, but in the proposed development, there's not really any farther for them to go out through the bottom across the strip of land where the power lines are and go down Clearview than it is to go all the way down Cedar Lake Drive and out Broadway. Speaking of Broadway, there's a lot of Cedar Lake Drive was not notified with this 500-foot rule. None of Broadway was notified of this change. There's already plenty of traffic, including commercial vehicles. There's a CBI, which runs in and out of there with trucks that take sewage from the port and various things like that. And there's a mine just across the railroad tracks. So there's trucks coming and going all the time on Broadway. Everybody I've talked to on Broadway says they have more than enough traffic already. They don't like the idea that suddenly there's going to be more traffic. And if Broadway is tied up for some reason, which it is occasionally, all that traffic is going to go through the little narrow road of Spring Street in order to get access to US 1. The main thing is access to US 1. I made a couple of notes. The evacuation spoken of was due to a burst gas line. There's a natural gas line. The reason there's not a homestead exemption on some of those properties is because they're owned by snowbirds. They can't have homestead exemption in Florida when they live most of the year or half of the year in some place up north. It's not because they're rentals, although there are a few rentals. There's at least 2 I can think of on Cedar Lake Drive. There might be more, but that's the ones I know of. I think I was going to talk about wildlife, but other people talked about wildlife. Basically, that's all I'm saying is there's been talk about a compromise. The RU111 itself was a compromise. It was a compromise to not increase the density to the point that they would have a mobile home park in there. RU111 required site-built houses, not a trailer park. And that's due to the hurricane fears, because you can wipe out a whole bunch of houses at once with a hurricane. That's all I can think of right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Come on down, sir.
My name is Jose Cadez, 1159 Vineland Street. I can tell you a story. I can tell you a really good story about reports. What 15% of the property, what I can find there, what I cannot. There is scrub jays, there isn't. We need to find out what is true and what we can do to find out what we have to do. I can hire Susan too to tell me what we need to do. I haven't seen a report. Are they real? I do believe that we need to stick with the original binding developers plan. That's very important to me. And my last and most important is the questioning of Zach. Was that really necessary to get all this done? I believe not. I think it was more of an attack on him than anything. It's more like being bullied. How dare you come up here and talk about this and ask questions and post it online? No. I saw it. I was a little bit pissed off about that. What we need to do is find out what we have to do for everybody, even a developer. I want real reports or surveys that are valid. I don't want one that's back done in 2002 on the wetlands. Let's get out there and find out what's real, what we can do. You know, have you seen a blue jay? People have seen them. No, there's no blue jays out there. We have a report, you know, surveys. I called the Conserve Florida. They would come out and they would do a survey, but I was denied because of the liability on the property. I sent her an email. I sent Kim an email, or I even called, and she sent me an email saying no, that was not going to happen. They already had one. Atlantic Environmental. Who's paying him? What did he ask for whenever 15% of the property, give me something I can use? He's getting paid by somebody, and it's not none of us that are trying to figure out what needs to be done. What about the sewage? We got a plan. I don't want a plan. I want you to tell me what you're going to do. 100%. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? There's a lot of things that we can question. I can tell you a lot of stuff. I can tell you a lot of really good stuff. Just listen to my story. There isn't, there is. Can they? Yes, they can. They cannot. But, you know, I can tell you whatever you want to hear. And that's what I want you guys to think about is look at what you got in your hands, look at what you've been told, and then find out what is real, what isn't real. Reports, surveys, when were they done? Or that, you know, who did them? You know, if I'm going to build something, I'm going to go hire this guy over here. You know, if you go to their site, you know, I'm working for you. I'm going to develop this land. I want you to give me the surveys that I need, reports. But one more thing, the Zach thing really bothered me. I hope you guys saw what I saw. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comments? Come on.
Sorry, I wish I had this question in my head when I came up the first time, Sue Price. I was wondering also, in their BDP, did they mention what size the homes were going to be? How large they're going to be on these lots that are going to be smaller according to their, I guess, their tier 1? Smaller lots, but what size are these homes going to be?
Where is that in the packet? Do we know? Yes. Trying to find. I see that it's 150 units, but I didn't see page 15 in the new packet. 600 square feet, single-family detached dwelling units with a minimum floor area of 600 square feet. Is that correct?
No, that's not in the binding development plan, nor is it in the existing binding development plan.
Isn't it in the packet you handed us this evening? Oh, what are the sizes of the single-family manufactured homes you're proposing to put there?
1,000 square feet to 1,500 square feet.
1,000 square feet to 1,500 square feet is your answer, ma'am. Any further public comment?
I just have one more last thing to say. Zach Briganti again. And I don't know how true this is, but I heard that this was going to be a affordable or lower income rentals, which, I don't want to stereotype, but crime, hasn't been brought up, but that might be another thing to to mention. And then yesterday, I think it was called First Choice, or there was a surveyor that came around to do the perimeter survey, and I saw him through the backyard and stopped and talked to him, and very nice guy, group of 3 of them. And they laughed that they saw 50 burrows at least of gopher turtles. And according to the assistant to the biologist, there's 1 turtle per 2 burrows. So that's 25 alone that he saw just on the north perimeter property line. So I just want to reiterate my, make sure it was clear. I was a little nervous when I came up before, but a larger buffer behind Vineland is really my goal, but also the crime on this being low income. I don't know if they mentioned that this is affordable rentals as well.
Thank you. Any other further comments at this time?
As I have clarification I want from the attorney.
Oh,
Somebody else, there was another.
come on down if you wish. This is the time.
Could I ask a question of the audience? Is everybody here not in favor of this?
I object to that question. That's illegal. That is illegal. That's
Well,
an illegal question.
I think that we could skip over that and move on. We're not attempting to do anything
Take
illegal
me to
here
court.
tonight. Please
I'm
go right
serious.
ahead.
I'm serious.
Maureen, let's
I'm sorry. I'm
get
sorry.
through this in the way we're supposed to
I'm sorry.
proceed. So
The county
please,
commissioner
it is
asked
your
that
turn.
question.
My name's Corey Perino. I just want to say I took offense to crime and low-income housing. The way the world is today, with the way our government is run, people can't afford $250,000, $300,000 homes. So to stereotype and say that a 1,000 square foot home that may get somebody in for 150 doesn't mean you're getting crime. I was very offended to say that low income equals crime, because there are a lot of people today, young families, who are dying to get into affordable housing so they can live a good life. It doesn't mean that they're criminals. Affordable housing is meant for good, hardworking people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments, now or never?
Madam Chair, just for the record, I wanted to point out that some of these residents are coming up for a second time. It's your choice to allow them to come up for a second time, but usually they get one shot to voice their public opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Thomas Amstad, one thing I forgot to bring up that I meant to bring up before was the fact that they keep coming back for a change in this. reminds me of a concern we had before. Part of the reason for the RU 111 instead of the TR1 was they didn't want the developer with his proposed, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, take him at his word, and then next year that developer's gone and they got somebody else comes in there, makes it into a trailer park. And he doesn't have to come back for zoning then because it's already TR1. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this tonight? Please come forward. Hello, my name is Kimberly Sapp, 1189 Vineland Street. I think it was around 2006, we got a letter from either the county or FPL that our house was under eminent domain. So that was because of the gas line coming through there. So if our house was put on eminent domain in 2006, how can they build and put a trailer park on top of the gas line? That's one. And the other meeting we went to, they said something about putting a privacy fence after the buffer. First hurricane comes around, knocks that privacy fence. They're not going to fix that privacy fence, not as fast as we would like it fixed. So that if they're going to do this, they need to put a block wall, a 6-foot block wall. Privacy fence is only going to get tore down from the any hurricanes or whatever. And I'm disabled and I stay home. I watch the eagle all the time. We have indigo snakes everywhere. The owls, we have a mating pair of owls. There's a lot of endangered species there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Father Stewart, and I actually would like to speak with you afterwards, Ms. Generis, on a few things. 1159 Vineland, and one of the things I'm worried about is these homes that are going in there, nothing was brought up about busing kids when the homes are built, what taxes are going to be like, because they will go up, surely, for people that live there and around. So that was something that I think needs to be taken into account when we're going about all this business of building and so on and so forth, and what taxes and the expenses and things will be like for everyone else for busing children and so on and so forth, and all the things that come with it. So I just wanted to throw that out there because none of that was mentioned. The consequences of afterward. Some people, they may be on board, but you don't think of the consequences until everything's already done and said. So I just wanted to throw that out there for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. And you, sir?
Good evening. My name is Tom McFarlane. I built my house on Vineland Street in 1976. And my main concern is the value of my house just dropping. I would also like to ask all of you on a binding site agreement, why do they use the term binding when there is nothing binding about it? When I built the house there, I expected it to increase in value over the years, and now I'm thinking about it going the opposite direction. So my main concern is just the value of my house dropping so much. An aside, when I moved in there, we had so many scrub jays in that area, I could go outside and I'd have a dozen of me. We used to feed them all the time. And the gopher, I have 4 gopher turtles living in my yard right now. So that's just my one house. I got 4 gopher turtles there. The indigo snakes, I've had many indigo snakes come in. I used to grow a lot of tomatoes, and I had the netting in there, and these snakes were always getting caught in it, and I was always going out with an X-Acto knife, and I have to cut them free. So there was a lot of indigo snakes around there at the time. And I don't know, I just don't have much else to say other than that I'm just worried about the property, my property value just dropping. And I just want to let you know that's my concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no further public comments, Ms. Rezanka, would you like to come up?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, my name is Kim Rezanka on behalf of the applicant and the developer. And I apologize for yelling out, Ms. Root, but asking to poll the audience is clearly not permitted. And I am preparing to sue the county if I need to. That's why I'm asking questions, and that's why I'm setting the stage as I am. Also, the reason I asked Mr. Brigante a question is because of the email I gave you. I showed it to him, and he said he never received it, and I have no reason to doubt him. But this email was sent to his work email from which he sent you all emails. So it was reasonable for me to believe that...
Why is this pertinent to what's
because he's
under
biased.
discussion tonight?
His testimony is biased because he uses the property as his own personal property, and he's tried to buy property from the client and has been denied. That's why it's biased, and that's why I presented it to you. This is part of setting the record for a lawsuit, and that's why I've done it. So that's what I wanted to explain to you all, not because I don't have anything against Mr. Brigante. He's been very nice when we met with him at the public meeting, that he does have a bias.
This email really has nothing to do with what's the auspices of this board or what we're doing here tonight.
You get to judge the credibility of the people that testified before you. That's why it's relevant. You can take it or not take it. That's completely up to you. I was trying to explain to you why I asked questions, because I believe he has a bias against this developer and this owner.
Please hold your comments unless you're at the podium, please.
So, regarding the comments from the neighbors, yes, the issue of what we're rezoning, the main 50 acres is the RU-111. Only the 1/2 acre to the south, which is in the Cedar Lake mobile home area.
May I ask a question about that particular piece of property? Is there a mobile home on it now that is
No,
going to be removed?
it's vacant.
But there's going to be a road access way put through there?
Yes, yes, ma'am. That's in the concept plan before you. And so that is the only TR2 that's being rezoned. The land behind Winn-Dixie is BU1, which we can already build homes on it at a greater density than RU-111 because of the comprehensive plan. We're trying to make it all consistent with the binding development plan. And as to that access in Cedar Lake mobile homes, we leave that in your hands. If you want that as emergency access, the developer is fine with that. It can be emergency access if that's what you all feel is right for Port St. John. Apparently they did in 2006, but then that's going to put all the traffic on Clearview Drive. We leave that to you all. If that's what you want, that's fine.
Has there been a traffic study about how this would impact those access roads?
There's no, There's no traffic study required for a local road. The only traffic impact analysis is done on the main roads, and that's in your staff report.
I think this would become a main road if the access to this development were to go through there.
It's a neighborhood road. It's a neighborhood road. So the county will require us to make improvements, and we'll do whatever the county requires. If they want it wider, if they want it repaved, if they want sidewalks, whatever it is, that's a site plan issue, as are most of these issues before you. The residents here would have us engineer the entire project before we come for rezoning. That's just not the way it's done. The engineering for this will cost $250,000, and that's not fair to ask someone to come before you. In fact, the law says we don't have to tell you exactly what we're doing, only that we want to develop it. So they are asking for things that are not feasible to be done, nor are they required. Regarding the wildlife, yes, everyone likes the wildlife, and the wildlife will be managed as the law allows. If there are gopher turtles, and if they aren't already diseased, they'll be relocated. If they are diseased, you're not supposed to relocate them, you're supposed to bury them, which is worse. So whatever the county requires, whatever Fish and Wildlife requires, whatever DEP, whatever agency requires with the wildlife. Again, this is already allowed to be 156 units, so that wildlife would be impacted if built to today with what's allowed today. So this is an issue of changing for the smaller lots, allowing manufactured homes. These manufactured homes will be built to withstand 100-mile-an-hour winds, 100-mile-an-hour winds, because that's what HUD requires in this area. So this is not going to be whipping around. Some of these mobile homes that are in this area already are very old, and those are more concerned than the new requirements because of the new standards. The developer to put in this development will spend $14 million. This is not going to impact anyone's taxes but the developers and the owner of this project. Individual homes are based upon increases by the property appraiser. They're saying these are going to be lower values, so how can they possibly increase others' homes' values? And again, the standard construction is not going to be appraised next to a manufactured home. Regarding school concurrency, that is not an issue. We were not required to do a school concurrency at this point. And when they do develop this, they pay school impact fees that help with the schools. As to the buffer and the setbacks, Mr. Ritchie was talking about they don't manage the subdivision code, but the subdivision code does have a 15-foot natural buffer that can't be impacted by the developer. That's before you get to the 20-foot setback. Again, the rear setbacks for TR1 is the same as rear setbacks for RU111, which exists, and same as RU19 to the north, which of all these people that live on Vineland. Mr. Cadez states he wants to know what's there, which we are doing, and he wants to know what is going to be there. We've given you a concept plan. All of these engineering issues are subdivision plans, are subdivision issues, engineering issues, site plan issues. Again, we do not have to come before you with a complete subdivision plan engineered to standards to build. And again, I would repeat, these property value decreases are speculative. There's no indication that that will happen. There are already manufactured homes in Clearview Terrace mobile homes and Cedar Lake. The Plat says Cedar Lake mobile homes. They may not consider them a mobile home park, but that's what their Plat calls them. So again, I'd say that the residents are concerned because they don't want change. They don't know what's going there, even though we've given concept plans. We've been very open about what's going on there. That's how they know it's a rental complex. And there are rentals in the neighborhood. There's many further to the north and to the, further to the south and the east are also true mobile home parks with rentals.
May I ask you a question, please? I need a clarification on something came up with one of the people who spoke from the audience. She was concerned that the manufactured homes coming in, they'd be put on a cement base. but it is my understanding, and I know for a fact, that not all manufactured homes are put on a cement base. They can have area underneath, call it crawl space, or what do you want to call it. Do you agree with that they're not all put on cement bases?
They aren't, and I personally don't know what the plan is for these.
They're going on cement pads.
They're all going on cement pads.
Those are going on, okay, but that is not the standard.
Correct. These will be on cement
Okay.
pads, and if that's something you want in the binding development plan, that could be in there as well.
Well, what does that do to the drainage?
Drainage is an engineering issue. If you look at this plan, those big lakes, that is to hold all the water. That is to compensate for pervious versus impervious. That's why this development is less than 200 units and less than 150, because those lakes are so large. And that's where the water's draining. It's not going to drain into neighbors. It's not going to drain, ultimately it may drain to the river after it's been settled, but that's all drainage. That's all engineering. They can't impact others' lands with their drainage once they build. And the code has requirements of what has to be pervious and impervious, what trees have to be saved, what trees have to be replanted. Those are all engineering and site plan issues.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just gonna, yeah, Ms. Rezoning, if you shout at me, you will get the same back. You know me, and I know you, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
But I did not mean to be rude. That's all I wanted you to know.
You said about disease gopher tortoises. What disease are you talking?
I'm not an environmentalist. This is just
Okay.
what they have told me, that there is diseases that gopher turtles will sometimes carry. Several of these people mentioned it as well.
Right. What did you mean by they can bury them?
Yeah, if they're diseased, they can just be buried. That used to be the regulation.
It
They
takes
don't
up
they
to
don't move
6
them.
months for
They don't move
to
them if they're
die.
diseased.
I don't believe you can just bury them. I'm just,
We do whatever the government requires. It used to be they were buried. I could be mistaken, but it used to be if they were diseased, they were just buried.
and just one more question. The rental properties you're talking on, the rental mobiles, I read somewhere they was going to be upward of $2,000 a month, $1,800, am I right?
I don't know
That
where you
was
read
down
that.
in-
That's nothing I've put in writing. That may be in an email, but that's nothing we've put in writing.
No, I saw it somewhere, really.
I believe you, but it
You have
wasn't,
no
it wasn't from
idea.
me, it wasn't from the applicant.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Madam Chair, if I can just provide some clarification with Ms. Rezoning said, it is my understanding that the previously approved BDP limited to 154 units, not 156.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The other issue is that the staff comments, staff provides a concurrence review, and there it talks about the trips. It is not a traffic study. This is a preliminary concurrence review based on the number of units and the trips that we anticipate that development is going to provide. During the subdivision process, engineering will review the proposed development and ask for the appropriate traffic study improvements, what have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you know where in the packet that is? I've got a
The
lot of
concurrency?
paper. Yes.
It's in the staff comments.
It's in staff comments, page, bottom of page 3.
Yeah.
Yes, it's on page 3.
Yeah, page 3.
And that was based on 200 units, not 150.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anything further? Okay, I would like clarification, thank you, ma'am. I would like a little bit of clarification here. We have, I think I counted somewhere in the neighborhood of 26 emails from people who haven't come to speak tonight, but emails from neighboring this property who, for diverse reasons, are either objecting or requesting more of a buffer, more than just a fence. There were some other comments in here. So it's within our auspices to take the objection of the neighbors in that neighboring that property into account as an advisory board. Is that correct?
That is correct. So what is before you is a request to change the zoning with a BDP. Your job is to take that into consideration along with the staff comments and all the other documents the staff has provided with you. Also, the testimony provided by the applicant and the public comments that you received both in written format and verbally here tonight.
Okay. So the way I understand it, the environmental concerns alone are not adequately satisfied, in my opinion, by the applicant because of the limited scope of your investigation. There's a lot of woodlands there. There seem to be a lot of endangered species and a lot of considerations that perhaps you haven't taken into consideration. I don't feel myself satisfied that we've done everything that we should do before you start making such a massive change to an area that could be very environmentally delicate and important. The idea of the possible septic so close to the river is another consideration that I feel we should be very, very careful about. So,
Mr. Pearl did address that as well.
yes, with the idea that it is not his intention to have septic. However, there is this proverbial road that's paved with such intentions, although I'm being very respectful, and I'm very glad that you're being mindful of that. We need a motion.
Can I just add, the natural resources of the county have not given any real direction. They don't know relative to the endangered species, soils, etc. They really don't know.
Okay, I need a motion. Unfortunately, it has to be from one of the board members. Our public comment time is over for tonight.
I make a motion that we deny the request.
A second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm kind of neutral on this. It's not, if we are going under the basis that they haven't met any of the county criteria, but before this goes forward, it's going to have to meet all that county criteria, or it's not going to be approved.
Actually, that's not our only consideration here, Greg.
No, that's not the only one, but that's,
Yeah.
the environmental conditions will be addressed. The mitigation of the environmental stuff has to be taken care of. I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate. and
I understand that.
I just, I'm uncertain. I mean, I don't feel.
Okay. Well,
it's
we can have more
unfortunate.
discussion time. I understand what you're saying.
Right.
I do. But I think that also when you have a stack of emails and this kind of turnout from the surrounding area, that's something that we really need to be careful not to be careless. But
Well,
that
I'm not
is
being
my
careful. I just didn't have
opinion.
I'm not biased in either
If
way.
there is a way to satisfy these concerns and come back with a really comprehensive environmental study with maybe some compromise on the actual buffer or boundary.
I mean, I'm sympathetic to everybody in here. They all have a reasonable cause for what they want.
Absolutely, you are correct.
And the developer does also. I mean,
Okay.
I just.
I'm not
I
sure
don't-
that you're, what happens if we don't have
Well,
5 people voting here?
There's a motion and a second on the floor and a motion, so you guys need to act on that. If you want to open it up for discussion about requiring or asking for additional information, that can be done. It's up to the applicant to, so there's two ways I can go forward with this, is you can request that this be tabled to a date certain to provide the applicant additional time to provide the documents that you're requesting, or at their discretion, they can move forward with a denial. That's their choice.
I want to say that they're already scheduled to speak Monday, and I feel like the county should have some indication from this board about how we advise them to act. So there is a motion to deny, seconded, and can I call for another vote, please? So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. This is denied. Believe it or not, for those of you who haven't had dinner yet, we have another item on our agenda. And that item is the Port St. John Small Area Study. And we've already had presentations on this. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, I'm Cheryl Campbell, nice to meet you. I'm in the Planning Development Department. In late 2018, the Board of County
Hold
Commissioners...
on just one second. Please, ladies and gentlemen, this is the second item, and we'd like to be able to hear, and with masks and all. Thank you.
In late 2018, the Board of County Commissioners directed Planning and Development staff to do a study of the Port St. John area. The study takes an in-depth look at the area's infrastructure and environment and includes the community's vision for the future development. 10 public hearings were held at the Port St. John Community Center, directed by an appointed 7-member committee. The final recommendations are as follows. Recommendation number 1, relocate Brevard County Fire Station from Fay and Carroll Avenue to the west, which is more to the center of Port St. John. Ideally, the land owned by Brevard County at or near Fay Boulevard and Adams Place. Funding source could be combined MSTU and MSBU within the boundary. Recommendation number 2, adjust the Port St. John Dependent Special District boundary to match the small area study boundary, less any lands that are currently part of the city of Cocoa or the city of Titusville. Recommendation number 3, change the future land use designation from residential 4 to neighborhood commercial on 2.392 acres located at the intersection of Fay Boulevard and Grissom Parkway. Recommendation number 4, change the future land use designation from residential 4 to neighborhood commercial on 30 acres located at the intersection, on 0.3 acres, located at the intersection of Fay Boulevard and Grissom Parkway. No changes to the zoning recommended. And finally, recommendation number 5, no changes are recommended to the area of Fay Boulevard and US 1. Current future land use and zoning designations are consistent. That concludes this presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Okay, I do have one question for our expert, sir. If we approve this, we approve all recommendations? There's no piecemealing this?
You can, this is just the study. If that's the direction that the board wants to do, we can present that to the board of your alternative recommendations.
Okay. What, the move of the fire station from Carroll to Adams, how far is that? That's not very far.
That's, it's 1 mile, 0.2, I believe.
Why would that make a difference when it's still on the same side of the railroad tracks?
If you can, I don't know, it's just hard to see. I wish I had a pointer. But Fay is running, of course, it's running east and west as it's heading to US 1. In that area is Carroll.
It is west of the railroad tracks. And Adams is west of the railroad tracks, just a mile or so farther.
Well, the concern was it would locate it more to the center of Port St. John.
Yes.
And Maureen Roop was on the committee. She could probably help speak to that, too.
Well, it didn't make any sense to me. The move didn't make any sense at all. We were putting it farther down where the school is, where, a lot of traffic on Fay Boulevard now, and to put a fire station there. Now, they need more fire stations. I think by the comprehensive plan, there has to be one every 5 miles.
They've met the requirement.
Pardon?
The requirement has been met, yes.
Yes, and also the cost. When they say MSTUs and MSBUs, I remember when we had the referendum for the community centre in Fay Lake Park and the grounds in Canaveral Groves, and we're still paying the MSTU, the people of Port St. John. And
so are you telling me, Maureen, that you really don't agree with recommendation 1?
Right.
But that's the only one that I really have an issue with as well. So what is our option to approve this with that caveat that we don't like that one?
You can't say you don't like that one.
All right, well.
What you can do is you can approve this with the caveat that to remove recommendation 1, or if there's a different order that you like to have, that's all, something that you guys can look at.
It's not an approval, it's an acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement
Yeah.
is what we're doing? Yes, sir.
I attended a few of those meetings, not sitting on the board, but as a concerned citizen near the end of the study. And if I recall correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there was concerns about the shifting population of Port St. John. And the original heavy load of population was on the east side of the railroad tracks, which is why the fire station is located where it was. And then there were potential future concerns of closing Curtis and Fay, closing that intersection, but they would have to keep Carroll open because of the fire station. So they're talking about, well, we need to add another fire station. Then they say, well, that's going to be millions of dollars. They say, well, what if we relocate the fire station that we have closer to the center of the Port St. John population? Because currently we're also borrowing fire services from Canaveral Groves and Titusville, I believe, on the north end. So that's why they're talking about moving it to a more centralized location that they could dispatch their units throughout Port St. John, rather than being tucked back into a neighborhood behind the fire state, behind the tracks adjacent to a wastewater plant, where they stop everything to get out.
Actually, the where they're located now is, you can see it from Fay Boulevard. I mean, it's just right there. And the centralizing it up to Adams is such a negligible, for the expense of moving this fire station 1.5 miles, I think we should save the expense and get another fire station.
So I forgot to mention this, so I apologize. So
Sorry.
during the Port St. John meeting, there was a county employee that was there from facilities that stated that they are looking at doing a needs assessment for these facilities. I don't have any more information on that, but the needs analysis will determine if there's if there's a more need for it, if there's a need to move it. But you are absolutely right. The cost of moving a fire station is pretty substantial.
For the negligible benefit of being 1.5 miles down Fay on the same side of the railroad tracks.
Well, then also you're moving further away from the older houses in the neighborhood also.
Correct.
When you
So
move west, you're moving away from the older, most of the population that was built in 50s and 60s in Port St. John
Right.
to the newer sections.
Right.
Not that makes a lot of difference.
So I don't know how to proceed, but I feel like if we could you said we're not going for approval, what are we going for here?
It's acknowledging.
It's an acknowledgement
All
of
right,
it.
I feel like we could acknowledge this with the caveat that we don't want our fire station moved. It seems silly, or at least the benefit for moving it a mile and a half west seems negligible considering the expense of that. And maybe we could hope for the needs assessment to provide for another fire station farther west. And how do we do that?
The reason why I brought up what I did was because a topic that came up repeatedly was a new fire station for West Port St. John. It came up over and over just in the few meetings that I attended. And so this was a recommendation that would help satisfy the western end of the western side of Port St. John without having two fire stations within Port St. John and all the staffing, because if Port St. John continued to push to the west, there would be a need for a new fire station. And this would, even though it's only a mile, you figure it's still a mile closer to West Port St. John. I'm just letting you know why it was brought up.
Thank you.
I was thinking that if the fire station moved down Fay Boulevard, it will be used more for the Grissom buildings and I-95.
Is that...
And in as much as what they need is more fire stations.
I think strongly that the idea of moving this fire station a mile and a half west is the benefit of that has got to be so small compared to the expense of moving it. And I think that our needs assessment, if it is going to be soon, hopefully, will bear up the fact that we need another fire station farther west. But why go to the expense of moving the existing fire station off Carroll if it's only going to be an expensive way to appease people? That doesn't make any sense.
If I may just interject for a second, my professional opinion is let the professional firefighters tell us where they need their fire stations.
Yes.
That's very, very wise. That seems wise.
Provide us with better data on that.
Okay, so we need a motion? Is that, okay, we need a motion to acknowledge. Am I allowed to make the motion?
No, you are not.
Oh, I'm not. I can't make the motion. Okay. So, we need a motion.
The motion you're calling for, is it just for this specific item, or is it the whole study?
It's to acknowledge the whole study.
We need to acknowledge the whole study, but we also want, don't we, to put
More
this
information.
caveat in about recommendation number 1? So I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we acknowledge the study, but we would like to have a caveat that will eliminate moving the fire station from its present location on Carroll Avenue, and that we get a needs study done as to a future fire station.
Well, I can't guarantee what the needs study will do. I don't have a time frame on there. It was just mentioned that that's something in the works.
Okay.
So I would strongly recommend not including that in your motion.
Okay. So say the motion, again, that we
Acknowledge.
acknowledge, yes, we acknowledge the study, but with a caveat that we eliminate the item referring to the fire station on Carroll Avenue.
Is any of this up for public debate? There was somebody out in the audience that had, I saw a
Do
question.
we take public comments on this?
It is a public
Do we
hearing.
have anyone who would like to speak on this? Please come forward. Please
Madam
come
Chair,
forward.
if you can just table that motion,
Okay,
and you can come back
okay,
to
we'll
it.
table that motion and hear some public commentary first. Sorry, thank you for keeping me on track.
You do a good job.
I just had a suggestion as far as the fire station goes over around the hospital by 95 where it is now. That way it could cover the back of Port St. John or the west side of Port St. John. Leave the one where it's at now. That way it would seem to cover a lot of the area. You wouldn't have to worry about 95 access because it's right there, north and south. And then don't forget, they're also building a huge Amazon warehouse right there on Grissom. So it would also have to access that eventually, I'm sure.
Well, thank you. We don't decide that, but thank you. That seems very sensible.
I heard something.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, please say your name and address into the mic. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is James Hyde. I live at 4327 Piedras, and I'm quite familiar with the firehouse where it is now. To me, if I was going to build another firehouse, I'd build it up closer to Kings Highway. There's a big vacant piece of property there. If somebody tried to put storage buildings in, and it was flopped. If I was going to put a fire station, I'd put it right in there someplace. Forget the name of the road up there.
Is it King? Yeah, King, right?
It was below Kings Highway. And it was also with this new building and this new residential area just north of Kings Highway on Grissom, you're going to need something up there, which would appease whoever, the big warehouse moving in.
That sounds very reasonable. We don't decide that, but that sounds very reasonable.
The older part of Port St. John are mainly cinder block homes. What's going to burn there? You get over to the other side of the railroad tracks heading west, you're still running into block houses, and there are quite a few stick houses in the area.
Yeah, Jim, we're not deciding anything on that tonight.
I know. I'm just.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Have a good day.
You too. We have a motion, and it was to acknowledge the small Port St. John small area. Oh, are you wanting to know when I'm going to make your dinner tonight? State your name and address, sir.
Hi, my name is Paul Chinaris, 5493 Jamaica Road, Port St. John. I think, I don't know if the recommendation originally was made for the fire station, because down the line, they may be looking to put a light at Curtis and Fay, and I don't believe DOT will allow you to have two lights, one at Carroll that close to Curtis, and at Curtis that close to the railroad tracks. That may have been taken into account for the move of the fire station. Because you have a lot of people pushing in the population building for coming off of Curtis as opposed to Carroll, and Carroll has to have a light because of the fire station. That might be part of the reason of the change for the fire station.
Huh, okay. Thank you.
Yes, that did come up in conversation.
Oh, did it? Okay. All right, we have,
Wait a second.
We have a motion to acknowledge the Port St. John Small Area Study with the caveat that we do not wish to include recommendation 1, moving the fire station from its current location on Carroll west to Adams Place. We feel like the benefit would be negligible compared to the expense of that. Did anyone second that? Was that seconded?
Second.
Second. Let's, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who made the motion? Oh, okay.
Wendy did. Okay, if that is all, I am going to bring this meeting to a close. Thank you all very much.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.